M&A TV is pleased to be joined by Savio Tung, Chief Investment Officer for Investcorp. Savio, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you.
Would you mind by starting by telling us a little bit about Investcorp?
Investcorp has been around since the early 80s. We are primarily investing in the private equity, and internally we call corporate investment. Since that time, we have now grown into a pretty large asset management company. We have a real estate investment group. We also have a very substantial hedge fund investing group. And then, of course, the private equity, which is a core part of our activities.
Do you predict that activity will continue to grow in M&A through the rest of 2016 and into 2017?
Yeah, I think it's kind of sad for me to say, but certainly the US is still the safe haven. I think international investors are continuing to have, they've shown interest in investing in the US. And the market, I think, is pretty good. The corporates are full of cash. Banks are still lending. And there are many interesting stories in the private equity world. Some sectors are very interesting. So I think 2016 will be pretty good. It's not super robust, but it will trend along the same as 2015, especially for the middle market sector.
Well, let's go off on that just a little bit. You said that some sectors are more interesting right now. Let's talk about that, what you've observed.
Well, early on, I was talking to a group, and I specifically call out the cybersecurity in the tech sector. I think that tech sector and the cybersecurity is a global business. US, we're pretty good. We're still not that good. Just look at US government leaking out the employees' data. I think we can do a better job. So I'm proud to say that for several years now, we invested in 4 different cybersecurity companies, and today we are seeing very substantial business increase. And I would also say that internationally, many countries are also trying to catch up. Now, when I say cybersecurity, I'm not talking about military security. I'm talking about data protection, ID, payment protections, as well as business practice. How do we protect virus? How do we make sure there's no interruption, business interruption? So you can be looking at hardware, you can be looking at software, you can also be looking at services. Just think about some of these managed services entities that help the SMEs. So the SMEs will outsource the whole oversight of cyber, of security to these managed service companies. So there are many areas that one can be engaged in the cybersecurity side. So I'm quite bullish.
Well, the thing about cybersecurity, of course, is that the technology is constantly evolving and so quickly to stay one step ahead.
Right.
What do you foresee for the future? I mean, we just have to be so on top of this. Can we stay ahead of the crime?
That's always hard to fight crime, because they can always surprise us. And our business is to run the business. Our business is not to commit crime. So it's very hard to fight them, but I think industries, companies have to just heighten their mindset in terms of corporate culture about cybersecurity. Not just at the board level. The board level are very much talking about this a lot. I mean, NACD, they have seminars and webinars on cybersecurity. I think it's a culture thing going down all the way to the junior employees so that they are all part of it. And I think that's one way to fight this. It's hard to just say, I'm going to go to my IT department and let them put in the protection. It doesn't work.
Speaking culturally, getting away from the cybersecurity for a moment, M&A deals in the U.S. versus doing these cross-border deals. What do you have to know as far as the cultural differences? Why do they make them so much more tedious, these cross-border deals?
Yeah. Well, I actually changed your question a little bit. I think one on the M&A outlook, speaking about my industry in the private equity world, we see a lot of roll-ups, add-on acquisitions, because the business is very good in terms of adding synergy value, value enhancing to businesses, and financing is cheap. So it's a lot more easier for us to do some of these add-on acquisitions and get a return on the capital. So that's one that I think will continue as a good trend. When you talk about cross-border, it reminds me of we at Investcorp are very international. We've been very international since 1984. As a middle market player, I think we are one of the few that really is exposed to international cross-border opportunities. It's not just China, but it's also Europe. When we walk in to see an opportunity in the US, often some of these middle market CEOs get excited because of our international background, because we can help them to expand to Germany, we can help them to go to Asia, or help them sourcing from Asia, or we can help them with add-on acquisitions in Europe. So I think cross-border is a discipline that I encourage my fellow middle market GP, PE sponsors to broaden their thinking, to look at that opportunity. Yeah. In terms of bigger deals, of course, you have politics, you have government issues. I really don't know how to comment on it, but I think the trend is still pretty good. I think the Japanese are investing here, the Germans are investing here, and I think the Chinese will come as well.
Speaking about the Japanese, with them going into their now fourth recession in 5 years, what impact do you think that will have, though, on M&A with Japan?
I think the new government leader is doing a good job. I think they have now a fighting chance of improving the economic condition. But they have always been outside. Their business is being international. So you see them in the US, and you see them in Southeast Asia, you see them in South America. And I think they have a pretty steady pace of investing. We don't read about them as much. They're not the trophy properties, but they are here. I think they're here.
Savio, thank you so much for your tremendous insight today.
Claudia, thank you.
It's our
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have you here.
Thank you.